Universe Maker's first scroll. Please view the description for trigger warnings to make sure this is content you're comfortable with. Chapter 14. Bloody, tired, and in pain, Hannah only had one thought. Raffi. Her hand clenched the tablet as the other pulled her body along the rock to the tiny creature who was lying way too still on the ground. She pulled up beside him. He was breathing, but just barely. She laid the tablet by him and waited. Nothing happened. She called out to him in her mind, "Raffi, I have the tablet. What do I do? How does it save you?" She asked over and over. Nothing came back, no words, no instruction. Tears gathered in her eyes. She lifted Raffi up gently and laid him on the stone object, hoping it would do the trick. Still nothing. Hannah cried as she felt Raffi's breaths become fainter, more shallow. She was losing him. She stroked the fur at his head again, petting it away from his eyes, wished they would open again. "I don't know what to do, Raffi. I need help," she pleaded again. But there was no one. She was alone, and someone else she loved was going to be taken away. She closed her eyes, unable to watch him go as she still stroked his head. "What do I do? I don't know what to do," she desperately pleaded out loud. Memories flashed through her mind when she desperately searched for her wooden horse. The first time Raffi tried to talk to her, how she was finally able to get the information she needed. Then she remembered her parents' words. If her mind was quiet, she would feel them if she needed them. She needed them now. Hannah closed her eyes, calmed her thoughts, placed a hand on Raffi, the other on the tablet, and asked, "Raffi said I needed this tablet to save him. I have the tablet. What do I do now?" The moment she said the words, light filled her mind. Light so bright she felt her body flinch from it, but she kept her eyes closed, kept looking for the answer. Objects moved around her, some very close, and she felt herself flinch again. The objects were coming fast. Hannah didn't understand what she was seeing. She felt panic start again, worried she was going crazy. No, she wouldn't let herself give in to fear, not this time. She kept her eyes closed, calmed down, and let the objects come as fast and close as they wanted. Somewhere in it, she'd find the answer she needed. The light quickly cleared the moment she relaxed. The objects took the form of people wearing strange, colorful robes gathered around both her and Raffi. One of them walked toward her, leaned over, and looked directly at her. "You can open your eyes now, Hannah," the woman said gently. Hannah nodded and opened her eyes. Raffi was looking back, sitting up on the tablet and smiling. Relief so strong she couldn't stop, couldn't even dampen the cries that shook her whole body as she reached for him, pulled him close, and held him there. Raffi's arm came around her neck and patted her gently. "Are you okay?" She confirmed, wanted to hear him say it. "I'm fine. You did it, Hannah. You got the tablet." His words were excited in Hannah's head. Hannah laughed through her tears. "Only to save you. I still don't want the limitless power," she repeated. Raffi's paw slowed on Hannah's shoulder. "If that's your choice." His words were quieter, less excited, but he still sounded happy. Raffi waited until Hannah's crying finally quieted. He pushed away from her slightly and put his paws on both sides of her face. "Are you okay?" Hannah quickly nodded. Raffi was alive. She couldn't be better. It wasn't until then that she realized that the pain in her leg, torn fingers, her face, and even her nose were all gone. Hannah smiled. "Did you do that?" Raffi shook his head. "No, I didn't, but I'd like to introduce you to who did." With those words, Raffi jumped off Hannah's lap and ran across the rock. Hannah watched, saw people ahead of him, recognized them as the people she'd seen when her eyes were closed, but thought they'd just been in her head. Raffi was running towards the woman that told Hannah to open her eyes. Raffi jumped the moment he was close enough. The woman caught him and pulled him to her shoulder, wrapped her arms around him. Hannah saw the woman's lips move, made out the words, "Well done." As the woman held Raffi, a silver mist started to gather around him. Hannah squinted her eyes as she watched. Raffi was changing. His little body started to grow, arms stretched, legs extended, and continued to do so until feet touched the ground in front of the woman. His fur receded, replaced by tanned skin covered by a robe similar to the ones the others wore. long hair extended down his back. Rafi backed away from the woman. For the first time, Hannah was able to see her face. The biggest shock of all hit Hannah. Rafi wasn't a male creature like she assumed. The girl now standing in front of the woman looked to be about Hannah's age, slightly shorter, with large blue eyes. She was smiling, tears running down her face as she talked. The others that stood around her each took a turn to hug her. All seemed really happy, almost like they were celebrating something, but Hannah had no idea what. Even with everything she had been through in this strange new place, going through one weird and impossible to understand scenario after another, Hannah still felt like her whole world had just shifted again. Watching the group, how they smiled and laughed, something really important had happened. Even though not one of the strange people she saw looked at her in any way, she felt like she was permanently connected to whatever they were celebrating. Hannah wasn't sure if she liked the feeling or not. She waited quietly, waited for each of them to take a few minutes with her. All she heard was a massive noise, but she was able to make out more words by watching close. You finally made it. It's been so long. Many in the group were wiping away tears. The girl at its center, the person Hannah had thought was her friend, now stood as someone she didn't recognize at all. She felt her body start to shake. Fear and doubt returned. Now that she wasn't in the form of a defenseless animal and didn't need her anymore, would she lose another friend even though she'd worked so hard to save her? Who was this girl anyway? The moment that thought hit her head, Raffi turned and looked right at her. Hannah bit back a curse, only then remembering they could hear each other's thoughts. Oh, feeling embarrassed and awkward, Hannah tried to pull her eyes away, but couldn't. Raffi started walking toward her. Hannah got to her feet and fought the urge to back away from the girl that was quickly approaching. When she got close enough, Raffi threw her arms around Hannah's neck and tightened into a hug. Thank you, Hannah, for sacrificing so much to get the tablet, she whispered, her voice caught with emotion. Hannah froze for a moment before she remembered that whoever this person really was, she had gone through the craziest, the most incredible adventure in her life with her. There wasn't anything that would change that, no matter what she looked like now. Hannah's arms closed around Raffi. Tears started to flow from her eyes. I couldn't let anything happen to you, Raffi, she admitted. My name is Alia. Raffi was just the form I had to take for the test, she explained. Hannah looked up from Alia's shoulder and saw the others draw near, circling the two as they hugged. She stiffened, suddenly feeling unsure with so many eyes watching her, even if they were smiling. It's okay, Hannah, they're my family, and they're very grateful you finally freed me from the scroll, Alia explained. We certainly are grateful, Hannah, the woman confirmed. We've been waiting a long time for Alia to gain her human form. You've proven to be a very worthy guide for her as she continues her journey. So much of what she'd heard and seen in the last few minutes made no sense. Human form? Are these beings not human? This was all a test for for Alia? What did they mean continue her journey? Hannah nodded at the smiling woman, not understanding a thing, but made sure it didn't show on her face. Alia chuckled and backed away from Hannah. Mom, she doesn't understand any of what you just said, she said. Hannah went red and wanted to curse again. This new old friend reading her thoughts was getting a little annoying. Alia came to her side and squeezed her hand in support. You asked your mom questions when you needed information. You can ask my mom the same way. Her words reminded Hannah of their time together in stage 3. Hannah smiled and felt a little less flustered. She looked up at the others and found the courage to speak on her own. You said Alia gained her human form. You're not human? She wondered if she'd just been accepted by a group of aliens. If so, what was their normal form? The woman smiled and stepped forward. We can take many forms, but human is our natural state. For the first test, we take the Rafi form. It's intended to test the scout to see if they value the lowest or smallest forms of life. You seem to have passed it without even a thought. Very rare among your kind, she explained. Hannah blushed at the woman's praise. She couldn't have been that unusual. She felt generic at best. There was no way she was rare in any way. Then it occurred to her. I suppose to someone who desires limitless power, a small animal wouldn't seem very important. The woman gave Hannah a smile that reminded her of how her own mother would smile at her when she would figure out a difficult math problem. She smiled at the happy memory, and for the first time since she'd lost her parents, remembering it didn't make her cry. But still, I can't be that rare. Raffiform is adorable and Alia is amazing. The woman raised one eyebrow at Hannah before she looked at Alia. How many scouts has Miss Howard sent? She asked. Before she could stop herself from thinking it, Hannah wondered, who? Dr. Miller, Alia clarified before answering the woman. Professor McCullen was the 12th. So that would make a total of. The woman paused, her head bouncing in time with her mouth moving silently. Hannah got the feeling she was counting in her head. 12,456 humans that couldn't get through all the tests, which means not one of them could get Alia to trust them enough to communicate with them. How many of them even tried to show you any kindness? She asked Alia a question. Alia pointed at Hannah. She was the only one. The woman's eyebrows raised and she turned back to Hannah. We had about given up on anyone succeeding and were considering transferring her to another planet. Hannah's jaw dropped at the comment. She turned to Alia. How long have you been stuck in that form, repeating that crazy, weird, whatever that was? Alia took a deep breath. Your time, it was the equivalent of 2,372 years. Hannah just watched Alia for a moment, unable to imagine what that must have been like. She had been in foster care for only 6 years, and this seemed way, way worse. But now it's over. You get to go home, Hannah hoped. Even though her heart hurt at the thought of losing the best friend she'd had in a long time, she was happy Alia would be back with her family. But Alia shook her head. This test unlocked my form, but there's still more I have to do. I have to return to Earth and continue my training. Alia looked at Hannah. The woman stepped forward and started to talk. She needs a guide before she can return. Hannah, you finished the test and gained the tablet. You're the only one in over 2,000 years that's proven able. We know that you stated that you didn't want the gift at the end. We cannot force you to do this. The guide has to have limitless power? I can't still be her guide but not have the power? The woman shook her head. Hannah, we are known by the name Universe Makers. We are the creators and destroyers of endless worlds. For all intents and purposes, Alia will have limitless power on your planet. As part of her training, she will need to go back to your Earth to continue her progress. The guide becomes an ambassador of sorts for your planet. By accepting to be Alia's guide, you have accepted the powers that come with her. Hannah looked at Alia, shook her head as understanding dawned. Wait, you were the source of the power that Dr. Miller wanted all along? Alia nodded. Hannah fought as the ends of her mouth wanted to rise in a smile, fought the laughter that bubbled up inside her. Dr. Miller had done horrible things to get a power she'd had in her hands the whole time. All she would have needed to do was to be nice to the Raffi form. Alia started to laugh and Hannah couldn't hold it back any longer. So, what was the point of the tablet? Hannah asked, trying to put it all together. The woman answered, if you choose to accept the role as guide for Alia, the tablet will bind you both together for as long as Alia needs a guide. Hannah looked at the girl standing next to her. What will happen to Alia if I don't agree? She asked. The test will reset. She cannot progress until she has a guide to go through the next steps. Hannah started to nod her acceptance, but Alia stopped her. You don't want this, Hannah. You told me yourself. I'll be fine. I've already been doing this for over 2,000 years. What's another 1,000 or so? I'll do it, Hannah interrupted before Alia was finished. Hannah, Alia pleaded quietly, tears filling her eyes again. You're the closest friend I've had in so long. Back on Earth, you're also the only person that wouldn't gain anything by being my friend, which makes me know I can trust you. something I haven't been able to do with anyone for a really long time. Hannah's eyes started to fill with tears too as she spoke. I'm not doing this just for you, Alia, she finally admitted. It won't be easy, Alia warned again. Hard doesn't scare me as much as it used to. Besides, some things are worth it. You're sure? Alia asked one last time. Hannah smiled and gave a slow, determined nod. The girls embraced again, both shaking a little at what just happened, what they just agreed to, but it felt right to Hannah. Hannah hoped it felt right to Alia too. Of course it does, Alia assured her. Hannah didn't even mind that Alia had heard yet another deep fear. The girls released each other and Hannah faced the woman again. What do I have to do? She asked, committing herself to whatever would come. The whole group of robed visitors clapped and cheered. Alia's mother wiped some tears away as she stepped forward. Retrieve the tablet, Hannah, she instructed. Hannah walked back to where the tablet still rested on the ground and picked it up. She brought it back with her to stand by Alia. The woman nodded at Alia. Alia let out an excited squeal and took the long end of the tablet, both girls holding the tablet together. The woman turned back to Hannah. This is your last chance. Once the binding takes place, it can't be undone until Alia has completed everything she needs to on your planet. A tremor went through Hannah. Something deep inside her shook at what she was about to do. Not entirely trusting her voice as the tremor seemed to grow, she nodded again. The woman smiled again, and the others gathered in a circle around the girls. At the same time, they all started chanting the same words, ones that Hannah didn't understand or recognize in any way. The tablet started to glow, grew brighter until Hannah had to close her eyes from its light. Unable to see anything, she started to feel like she was spinning, but didn't feel dizzy. Or maybe everything was spinning around her. There was a rush of wind that felt like it passed through her. Then everything went quiet. Hannah opened her eyes. The bright light was gone, and her hands were empty. She looked around to find where the tablet had gone and noticed a narrow silver band around her right wrist. Alia had it matching one on hers. They both looked back at the woman. She merely nodded and said, "It is done." Images started to blur. Hannah blinked to try and clear the view, but it merely got worse. It was like watching a TV screen that was losing focus, except for Alia. Hannah could see her clearly while the world around them continued to evaporate. Colors changed. The blurry red and black mixed with greens and browns. The air around her felt cooler. The green and brown smudges started to take form. Images she started to recognize surrounded them. Solid rock turned to soft grass under her feet. Soon she was able to look around. See Wyndham Preparatory tower around her, her favorite tree standing to her right. She was home.